All right. So, getting into financial aid and scholarships, the cost of attendance in the US can be expensive. Many of the institutions in the US are private institutions. And while many countries in Europe are able to offer education at a very low and oftentimes free cost to their citizens. College in the US is typically decentralized, and so private universities are in charge of determining how much they're going to charge students. So there's a lot of different terminology that comes with regard to financial aid and scholarships, and it can get kind of confusing. So I wanted to spend just a minute breaking down some of the terminology that you'll likely hear as you are going through the application process and as you are navigating the financial aid part of coming to the US for college. So the cost of attendance at a US university is going to include virtually everything. So universities typically break their entire cost of attendance into a couple of different pieces. Tuition is what you'll pay to actually attend the classes. Room and board is what you will pay to live on campus and to eat in the dining halls. Some universities have a residency requirement, which means that you have to live on campus. Other times, if you are not going to live on campus at a certain university, you'll have to budget in what's it going to cost me to get an apartment at this institution? What is it going to cost me to grocery shop or eat out or to feed myself every day? Universities will also include applicable fees, and these fees really range depending on the university. Pretty much every university is going to charge some sort of student fee, a student activity fee. International students may pay additional fees as well that will go towards international student orientation, processing of I-20s and visas, etc. Universities will also include personal expenses in their overall cost of attendance. This will include things like health insurance. If you are going to a US university, you're often required to have health insurance, and you're required to have US health insurance. So that's going to really vary school to school. This might also include estimates for things like how much books will cost each semester, how much it might cost you to fly back and forth between your home and your university. So the cost of attendance is often quite a lot more than just tuition for the university. This is really going to vary school to school, and it will vary based on the type of institution as well. Need-based financial aid refers to financial aid that a student can receive that is based on their family's financial situation and their family's income. So in some cases, universities are able to offer some financial aid to students who are not US citizens, who are international students. In other cases, some universities are only able to offer need-based financial aid to students with US citizenship, and that can include being a permanent resident or a dual citizen. So for the need-based financial aid piece, you're often going to have to fill out a form called the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid, and you might have to fill out an additional form called the CSS profile. So a merit scholarship is going to be a scholarship that you receive from a university that is based on your academic performance. Some universities will explicitly say that if you get this specific GPA, you are guaranteed to get this specific scholarship. Other universities will have a holistic review process for merit scholarships, just like we have for the admissions process. Merit scholarships are going to range very widely. Some merit scholarships are, in all honesty, quite small. Others are quite large. It's really going to depend on the institution. Some merit scholarships might also require something like an additional application, an additional essay, or a specific application deadline to be considered for it. So some universities might say, you have to apply by November 1st to be considered for our merit scholarships. I know we keep saying this, but context is so important, and every university might have something that's just a little bit different than the one that you researched prior to researching that current university. So it's really important to consult our websites, talk to us if you're feeling confused about something. We know that this is a confusing process. An outside scholarship refers to a scholarship that you are able to apply for through an outside agency. This could be a scholarship that's offered through your hometown, through a community service organization. There are some scholarships that are specific to students from particular cultural backgrounds, that are specific to students from particular, let's say, groups or organizations that are offered. So these are really hard as well because there's no one centralized place to go to find out about all of these scholarships. I think students really have to do their research to find out, are there scholarships available? What do these scholarships look like? Loans, pretty straightforward. This is money that you're going to have to pay back eventually. In some cases, students are allowed to take out private loans to finance their education. I know that some countries offer government loans for students. So for example, I work with students from Norway, and they have the Lånekassen program. And this is a governmental loan that students are able to take out from the Norwegian government to help fund their education to go abroad to the United States. So oftentimes, if you are receiving an outside loan, it can also be directly applied to your entire cost of attendance. The university, though, may have some stipulations. For example, some universities may not accept loans from non-US lenders. Again, this is why it's super important to do your research, to ask these questions ahead of time. Finally, the last term I'll break down for you is the Declaration of Finances form. This is a form that you might be required to fill out during the application process. Some US universities use this form to ensure that international students are able to cover the cost of attendance at their universities. And this is largely the case when a university is not able to offer financial aid to international students. Basically, the university wants to make sure that the student can pay, not because we're being mean or greedy, but because we don't want to admit that student to our university and basically dangle this really great carrot of, you can come to our university, knowing full well that the student is not going to be able to come to the university because they don't have the funds to do so. So we really don't want to put a student in a really, I think, upsetting situation. And that's what the Declaration of Finances form helps us out with. Students often also have to fill out a Declaration of Finances form during the I-20 process to show, as they're getting their student visa, how they're going to be able to fund their education in the United States. So taking a closer look at need-based financial aid, as I mentioned earlier, many institutions will only offer need-based aid to US citizens, permanent residents, and/or green card holders. Usually, you need to have a US Social Security number to apply for need-based financial aid. So I've included here the two websites that you would go to, and this is really going to vary school to school. Some schools only use the FAFSA, other schools use both the FAFSA and the CSS profile. So what you really want to make sure with the FAFSA, if you're filling it out, is that you go to this specific website. There are websites out there that will charge you to fill out the FAFSA. The FAFSA is free. It says it right in its title. So you should never be paying for the FAFSA form. I've seen students make that mistake before. Demonstrated need is going to refer to the amount of money that you require to be able to attend the university, to afford the cost of attendance, based on the information that is captured in the above applications. That's supposed to say applications, not information. So some universities will say, we meet 100% of need. And what that would mean is that your family fills out these forms, the FAFSA, the CSS profile, and the financial aid office reviews the forms and determines that your family can afford, let's say, $20,000 toward the cost of attendance at a US university. If that university's cost of attendance is $60,000, and if that university meets full demonstrated need, and you are eligible for financial aid, that university would cover the remaining $40,000 in what we would call a financial aid package. Financial aid package are going to vary, they're going to vary wildly between different institutions. Some institutions will give out a lot of loans. Some institutions have a no loan policy. Some institutions will give a lot of grant money. They might give merit scholarships in lieu of grant money. So it's really going to look different place to place. Many universities do not meet 100% of demonstrated need. So even if you are eligible for need-based financial aid at a university, doesn't mean that they're going to cover your entire need, your entire cost of attendance. The final thing that I will say is that what your financial aid and financial need looks like on paper can sometimes be different from what it's going to come out as in reality. So it might look like a student's family can afford more than they actually can. It's really important to have these conversations with your families about what is financially feasible and what is not early on, because you just want to set yourself up. You want to set the expectations, and you don't want to set yourself up for disappointment.